Hey guys, welcome back. Joe Brunsman, insurance broker to the stars. Today, why smart MSPs are saying no to paying their clients incident response costs. All right, so our path today, one, the potential impact on your tech E&O policy, why you should personally care. Next, the interplay with your MSA. And then finally, the potential impact on their cyber policy and their increased legal exposure if they're going to ask you to do this. Now, I have seen this twice already. I had my own client call me with this circumstance. Then I saw it again on Tech Tribe. And so I said, hey, you know what? 2 points make a line, roughly. Why don't I just put this information out to the MSP world? Because if two people are asking about it, I'm sure there's other MSPs worrying about this. Or if you're an MSP owner, you might have to worry about this in the near future. So I would prefer that you have this type of information at your fingertips so that phone call goes a lot better than it likely otherwise would. So here's the circumstance. I'm your client. I'll call you. I say, hey, MSP owner, you remember my business got hit with insert cyber event. You know what? I think this is your fault. Ergo, maybe I have a cyber policy, but I don't want to pay for those costs. I don't want to pay my deductible. I think this is your fault. I don't want to pay the increased cost potentially at renewal for my cyber policy. Ergo, I think, hey, you know what? I want you to pay these costs, right? Or I want you to pay for the forensics to make sure it's a thing before I get my cyber insurance involved and I start shelling out big bucks. You're in the hot seat as the MSP. What are you going to say, right? What are you going to say? Now, let's start off with why this is a bad idea and the potential implications on your own tech E&O policy. Here's some common policy language, and bear with me, I know this is kind of pedantic, but you need to know this. An insured shall not accept at personal cost, make any offer or payment, admit any liability, settle any claim, assume any obligation, or incur any expense without the company's written consent. So, if you're paying for these additional costs and something may have already happened, you might just be voiding your entire tech E&O policy on that matter. Now, obviously, that's bad for you. It's also bad for your client. Why? Because if something happened and they do want to bring a claim against you, you might have just already voided your entire policy on that matter. All right? So it's bad for you. It's bad for them. Next, implications on your MSA. Foremost, do you require your clients to carry cyber insurance? Let me know in the comment section below. If you don't, I would highly, highly encourage you to consider adding that as a requirement. Now, someone's going to say, oh, you're crazy. We're all doing that. I've been doing it for the last 25 years, whatever. That's not true. I still get plenty of MSPs. They call me every week, very sheepishly. Hey, I know I should. I don't have it yet. What do you think? That's okay, right? The best time to include that clause was yesterday. The second best time to include that clause is today when you watch this video. All right. Next, does your MSA, and I would presume it does, have liability caps or indemnity clauses? Well, it most likely does, but now the question we have to ask is, hey, if you're shelling out for these additional costs, could that be construed as waiving those contract provisions and protections? I don't have your MSA in front of me, but that's a serious question. So where are we at now? Hey, if you already paid those costs, you might be voiding your policy. And now your contract, if you're potentially waiving some of those additional protections, you don't have insurance and your contract is now highly questionable. That's a serious problem and a very, very large potential mistake for your MSP. So please be careful with this. Now, moving forward, why is it bad for your clients, right? You want to say, hey, this is why it's bad for me, but you also want to be able to say, hey, client, this is why it's bad for you. Now, before we get into that, today's sponsor, CCA, CRD in Aston. If you want that white glove MSA SOW service, please check out www.crdlaw.com. If you're like, hey, I got it, or hey, I don't want to shell out all the cash for a full-time attorney here, go ahead and check out xclause.com. Month-to-month contracts, I believe the first couple of weeks are actually free. So go ahead and check that out if you need help with automation, MSA, SOW, CPQ, all that stuff. All right. Now, why is this bad for your clients and their cyber policy? Well, now, foremost, their cyber policy should cover all of those DFIR expenses. So attorney, forensics, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I have had a client do this before, and this was one of the biggest pains to unravel that I have ever dealt with in the insurance world. If they start performing outside forensics before getting their insurance company involved, what could happen? One, whatever that outside forensics report's going to be, highly unlikely they're going to accept that. All right. What does that mean? Well, it means they're not going to accept the results, and they're probably not going to reimburse you or anybody for those costs. That's expensive. Next, a bigger problem. When we start looking at the state breach notification laws, we could argue that, hey, the knowledge provision, so when did the business actually know that there was an event that required breach notification, credit monitoring, et cetera? That started when the first forensics report came out. Just because the insurer didn't agree to it doesn't mean that that business didn't know that they had to start notifying people. And many of those laws have very strict timelines on when that notification has to go out. Now, if you've ever dealt with the forensics report before, you know it's not an overnight type of issue. This thing takes time. So now we're stretching out that time between the knowledge provision and when the actual notification goes out the door. That's a big problem. So yes, you'll probably have to go through the notifications again, but now we're also just drastically and unnecessarily increasing the probability of some type of regulatory action at a minimum. Why? Late notification. You guys just do a quick Google search. You will see states going after people for late notification following a data breach. Now, there's a bunch of other myriad of legal and other contractual issues that could come into play. I didn't want to make this video super long or super boring, but suffice to say, trust me, bro, there's a whole bunch of other reasons you don't want to do that. Also, and including to the increased probability now of data breach class action claims. You don't want to be poking the bear here. And then ultimately, a cyber insurer, for a whole bunch of other reasons, could say, hey, we're going to deny your claim based upon you going out, doing forensics, something got screwed up. We don't want any part of this. And that makes sense because that increased regulatory exposure, that increased class action claim exposure, et cetera, you're putting the insurance company at risk because you didn't follow the bouncing ball like you should have. All right. So please don't risk this. It's not worth doing it. Now, bringing it together, what does all this mean? If you're an MSP and you're paying for those DFIR costs, you might be voiding your own tech E&O policy. Them using an outside vendor could void their policy and increase regulatory and or other legal exposure. So ultimately, this is bad for everyone. It's bad for you as an MSP. It's bad for them as your client. These are just things that should not be occurring. So as much as I understand, I've been an IT guy, I understand that the struggle is real where, hey, everything's working. Nobody sees you. People go, what are we paying these idiots for? And then something breaks and then they see you and you come in as Superman and you want to fix it. And then the person goes, what are we paying these idiots for? It's broken now. What's going on? I understand. I've been there. I've been an IT guy. It's like, hey, just pick a lane. Hate me on either side, but you can't hate me on both. I understand that. But there are times when the urge to help people should be overcome by just the sheer practicalities and legal necessities of life. All right. And I think this is one of those areas where your willingness to help people or keep that client, you don't want to play that game because it's bad for you. It's bad for them. All types of possible negative exposure comes out of this. So please don't do that. All right. Your MSP, ultimately, I don't want you guys to be an ATM. I don't want that precedent set that every time some end user to client clicks on something stupid, that now you're coming in and you're paying tens of thousands of dollars to potentially fix or justify their cyber insurer coming into play. Now, other videos to assist you. MSP liability considerations after a client's cyber event. I talk a little more in depth there. Post cyber event reimbursements, how to win-win that game so you get paid for that additional work you have to do. And then, of course, the client cyber insurance requirement, talking more about that. Question of the day here. Have you already explained to a client who is responsible for these costs? Have you already explained that? Have you gone through that with your MSA when you did the sit down and they signed it, or would this be really kind of news to everybody? Please let me know in the comments below. All right, like, share, comment, subscribe. Right above me here is another video that the YouTube algorithm sent to you. And if you click over there on my face, I am almost at 2,000 subscribers, so I would appreciate it. All right, guys, with that, stay safe.